What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Combat Sports Central Career Retrospective. Today we're taking a look at one of the fighters I was most excited to see perform basically on the entire UFC 264 event. Shining in his moment, Ilia Topuria continued his double-digit undefeated career with a win over one of the most dangerous and, according to the fighter themselves, feared fighters in the division in Ryan Hall. This test wasn't enough to even get Topuria out of the first round, so I was ready to take a look back and see where this Georgian finishing machine has come from throughout his MMA career. So join me in taking a look back at Ilia Topuria's career in this episode of Career Retrospective. The 24-year-old was born in Halle, Germany in 1997 to Georgian parents. He'd split his early years living between Germany and Georgia until he was 15. He practiced Greco-Roman wrestling in Georgia whenever he was there, and at 15 he'd moved to Alicante, Spain, where he continued his training in combat and practiced martial arts at Climent Club Gym. 3 years into his training in Spain, he'd take his first pro fight in a local MMA organization, and his first fight would be under Mixed Fight Events, which is still actively putting on fights for Spanish and Armenian fighters. He'd win the 145-pound title for the organization, compiling 4 straight wins, with one coming at another show in his home of Alicante, Spain. This run of 4 wins would come across a 2-year stretch where he'd continue to evolve and build his skills. After this run, it'd be another 17 months before we'd see him step inside the cage again, proving himself against competition in Spain, building up a resume of in-cage experience and years on the mats and behind closed doors. He'd step up to travel across Europe for his next couple fights, and that first stop would be in Finland. He'd start finding a home against hostile crowds where he'd fight an 8-1 Finnish bantamweight in the third fight on the card. The fight was an extremely fast-paced and action-packed fight for as long as it lasted. Topuria started to have an impact with his strikes on the feet and forced his opponent to shoot for a takedown. 3 minutes into the round, Topuria would stuff the first attempt at a takedown and reverse it into his own ground and pound before returning to the feet. He'd stuff another attempt before rocking his opponent again and finding his neck on a lazy takedown. Topuria would secure his 5th straight win and continue on to Cage Warriors in Belgium. Cage Warriors is a significant organization, so I found it interesting that in Topuria's first fight for them, he'd walked into a main event and again in his opponent's backyard. Topuria would be the guy brought in to fight Brian Bouland, basically as a title crowning event for the home countryman Bouland. As the underdog, Topuria shocked the crowd again and submitted Brian in the very first round once again. And at this point in 2018, Topuria had picked up wins in 4 organizations and captured gold in 2 of them. He'd go from an impressive organization to another impressive organization and continue his reign of dominance. Brave Combat Federation and Topuria would meet in Colombia and match Topuria up on 2 events. Ilia's fights in Brave would be up a weight class at featherweight. Surprisingly, his first opponent, a local competitor in Luis Gomez, didn't even have a single pro fight, so clearly outmatched, Topuria submitted him again in the very first round. For his second fight in Brave and the final fight outside of the UFC, he'd get a tougher 145-pound challenge against Steven Goncalves. And in this fight, he'd face some adversity early in the opening round. He'd eat a head kick and drop for seconds before flipping the tides by getting this fight to the mat. Here, it'd be a drag-out fight with his opponent even cutting Topuria from the bottom. However, the fight did return to the feet at the end of the first round after Topuria was continuing to hold top control, and once the fight did return to the feet at the end of that first round, Topuria showed the power he has to pair with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. During this time, the COVID-19 pandemic began ravaging the sports world, but unlike the rest of the world, the UFC got out to the forefront of bringing safe sports back and helping athletes around the world get the opportunity to fight with Fight Island. Topuria was one of the fighters that would blossom from the UFC's idea of Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, and one of the many elite fighters that found their way into the UFC from this opportunity. For his first fight, it'd be a great opponent and a powerful and impressive Youssef Zalal. This would be the last action you could have gotten on Topuria being an underdog. And again, as the almost 3-1 underdog, he secured a unanimous decision with all 3 judges reading off the same 29-28 scorecard, with Topuria securing the first and second round on all of them. On MMADecisions.com, the media scores, which rarely does occur, saw everyone score the fight differently in terms of who won what round, but all in favor of your winner, Ilia Topuria. After his first UFC win at Fight Island, Topuria didn't go back home to soak in the success of the opportunity. Instead, he flew from Abu Dhabi to Florida to enter right back into a fight camp. Topuria, disappointed in his first decision, would then stop Damon Jackson his second opportunity with the UFC. And then in the biggest spot he had at UFC 264 on the prelims, he'd stop the Rolling Thunder Ryan Hall again in the very first round. Topuria is now 11-0, and he's one of the most impressive prospects in the UFC's bantamweight 135-pound division, and looking to run through the top 15. I want you guys to let me know in that comment section below who is the best matchup for Topuria in that top 15 bantamweight division, and how far, or what do you think Topuria's ceiling is in the UFC? Can he win the title? Is he going to be a fringe top 5, top 10 contender? Let me know all that in the comment section below. And make sure you tune into the next career retrospective where we take a look at another prospect from the UFC 264 card, Indriscus du Plessis. So guys, make sure you subscribe to this channel, Combat Sports Central. We bring you guys the best content in terms of combat across all of YouTube. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.